Hello, I'm Penelope Mavor, and welcome to Earth Converse podcast, where we explore our relationship and conversations with the earth, all in the hope of inspiring a deeper connection with ourselves, each other, and the earth that is our home. And I've got Lynda Aldridge here, and calling in from Brisbane, Australia. Last time I saw her, there was a photo of a helicopter, and she was being rescued. So she's going to tell you that little story here. Lynda and I met when I did some work for a medical communications agency that she worked for. And I was also always impressed by Lynda's incredible efficiency. She signed I've used the analogy of the swan, she's all graceful and looks like everything's calm. I know she's panicking underneath. But what was beautiful, and she would tell me the stories of her scouting, or she would tell me stories of her adventures with her husband. They've known each other since they were teenagers, and nature and the outdoors has always been so important for them and their relationship. Her parents inspired her the outdoors, and she's inspired her two boys. So it's a beautiful story around that. And she's got also a wonderful story about, reconnecting with what you love and doing what you love. So, for example, this is what she's been doing in the last 2 days. Lynda, tell us.
So the last 2 days we had a school camp. So I'm an outdoor educator now, and we had school camp with some year 8s for leadership on a leadership school. And so yesterday spent the day with them building catapults, raft building and doing raft races on the river. And then we went on a little canoe journey, just exploring the waterways. And today I spent with the 3 groups doing abseiling with some of my peers. So it's been a great day outdoors, just enjoying the sunshine and the beautiful views that we get at my camp.
Oh, super. That's so lovely. So where did all this passion for the natures and outdoors start? Shall we go back to your roots? Yeah.
So my dad grew up on a farm, so we used to spend a lot of holidays and things out on my grand's farm, just exploring with myself and my brother, just building shelters, exploring the rivers, and just being out and exploring really. And my mom's an entomologist, so just getting to know all sorts of insects and just being outside and being one with nature has been really important. Then as I grew up, I had some friends who were senior scouts at the time in South Africa, and they went on lots of different adventures, so I joined those adventures. We did a really awesome 7-day hike, which was my longest hike way back when I was 16. And that was just through the Cederberg Mountains, a round trip there, up in the amazing rock formations and mountains and things. We went hunting snow, which was interesting. We'd never seen it before and decided to go and hunt snow. We didn't get it. No, we didn't. We got lots and lots of ice. It was very cold, but no snow, which was probably a good thing. No, it was awesome, and I did injure myself on that hike. We ran down one of the mountains, which was over 2,000 meters high, and I twinged the back of my knee, and then I kind of hobbled out and then pulled my Achilles tendon on the other leg. The unfortunate thing with that was it actually snowed on Table Mountain the next week. I was on crutches for about 6 months, so I couldn't go up, unfortunately. But Table Mountain's just been my rock. It was in our backyard practically, and wake up every morning looking out, seeing this majestic mountain in the background. Cycling to school, we see it. It was there for us to explore and spend a lot of time on that mountain. In the mountain too, caving and things, which was amazing. And then school camps as well, just really enjoyed the school camps. We went to one out Saldanha way, went into a national park, and there was a tracker and ranger there, and just the knowledge he had about the outdoors and the animals and the insects and everything else really sort of inspired me, and I wanted to be a ranger at that point, and I was probably about 16 or 17, and then met Malcolm, and we spent our weekends on Table Mountain, hiking up there and exploring the different sort of hidden valleys and coves and things like that. You could hike up the south side and then up over the top, and you could just look out in the bays over the ocean. It was just majestical. So I spent a lot of time exploring there. And then yeah,
I'm
we
so sorry.
went.
Yeah, just so what did I mean, Table, it's literally your rock, you know, your adventure ground. And I don't know, how do you feel, or is there a spiritual significance to it and your, you know, how you feel?
I think I probably never thought of it that way when I was growing up, but it was always there. It was that kind of, you're coming home from being away, and it was just that sort of home beacon. So I think it definitely, subconsciously, it was something spiritual, and just being there and being able to explore it. We actually took the children back about 5 years ago, and we took them up the mountain as well, just to share our experience from when we were younger, exploring. And I had my maps from when we used to go and explore the mountain, which were quite old by then, and we had some new maps as well. And some of the tracks we used to take weren't on the new maps anymore. I think they were trying to minimal impact, not getting too many people walking in certain places. But we had a really good experience. We actually booked the scout hut on top of the mountain, and we stayed in the scout hut. And just the sunsets over the ocean from the top of the mountain were amazing. So that was a really good experience to share with the children.
I love that. And they would have felt that, you know, that just sort of that sense of belonging, their own rootedness to that part of, their lives.
And it's such a special mountain, in the fact that you're hiking up. It's a really steep incline when you're going up. And there's one bit, you're kind of going through all these trees and these rocks and things, and you kind of look behind you and you can just see the whole of False Bay. And the little houses are tiny, tiny in the background, and you can see the mountains in the distance as well. And then you get to the top, and you kind of go over this little bump, and it looks like you're back on a beach. It's all just beach sand, because there are lakes at the top, which is the water reservoirs for the city. So you kind of come up, and it's all beach sand and this body of water. Hang on a minute, I've just climbed up what's going on. So that's really an interesting sort of, messes with your mind a little bit. And
for sure.
I climbed up there. So that was amazing. And I did that when I was younger, in the dark as well. We did a night hike. Didn't have any torches, and just hiked up to the top. And when we got to the top, it was all just misty, and you could hardly see anything. And the torchlight was then shining through, and you're walking across the bridge between the two dams, and it was just, it's just magical.
Well, night walks are magical anyway, aren't they? And also
Absolutely.
to do there is something else. Wonderful. And so you'd met Malcolm, and so you headed off to England at some point.
Yes. So we've been going out for, it was 5 years, and then we made the plunge, moved to England. So that was in 2000. And we planned to do the coast to coast. So that's Wainwright had come up with this route, across England from the Lake District across to the moors. So we decided we were going to take this journey. It was a 14-day hike that we were going to do across England. And you can do it the easy way and have day packs and get Sherpas to cart your stuff from one bed and breakfast to the next, because it's not that remote. But we decided to do it penny pinching. We just moved from South Africa to England, and poor students. So we had our full packs. My pack was probably a bit too heavy. And we planned that we took 7 days worth of food, and we were going to resupply at Keld, which was the halfway mark. But when we got to Keld, it was before Google, I suppose. We didn't quite know what to expect in Keld, and it was, I don't even think it was called a hamlet. It was a phone box farm. So because there was no pub, it couldn't have been called anything else. So the next day we lived on Lucozade and Mars bars, because it was May Day, and everything was closed. But it was a challenge, but we got through it. And I think that really helped cement our relationship. Malcolm and I, just spending 2 weeks by ourselves in the wilderness, going through all these amazing experiences and challenging ourselves in different landscapes, and getting through it. Some days we thought maybe we should just catch the bus and go home, but we didn't. So no, that was really amazing.
It's a lovely way, to cement or to be in relationship, and the challenges of that, the ups and downs, and the beauty and the dark side, and somebody, I suppose, one's tired, and then the other one says, "Come on," and taking different roles. That's a beautiful way, and you've continued to do that in terms of hikes with the boys.
Yes, no, we have. So we'd actually planned a trip, a cycle trip from Land's End to John O'Groats. So that's sort of from the length of the country. But then Ethan decided to arrive. So I was due the same date that we were due to head off for the trip. So that was
nice timing.
That's
cool.
I'd say we still haven't quite got there yet. But
But he's proved to be more of an adventure. Having a child is the ultimate, probably adventure.
And we just wanted to give them the passion for camping and being outdoors as well. So his first camping trip was when he was 3 months old. We took him for a week trip down around Cornwall. We did driving around there and camping around Cornwall and down south of England. So kind of got it in their blood when they were really, really young, which was great.
But there's something really special, isn't it, about introducing children, the next generation to nature, or introducing people to nature anyway. And then, I don't know, the sort of the infectiousness that a parent's enthusiasm can give a child and inspire a child.
Yes, no, which is great. So that both my boys really enjoy being on the outdoors. I think Patrick's at the age now where he's 14 and we sort of go, oh, let's go canoeing. Oh, not again. I think there's a bit of a spoiled moment, whereas you've got all the other scouts and they go, oh yeah, that'll be awesome. And Patrick's like, oh, canoeing or hiking or something. But he gets there. We did some awesome hikes recently as a family as well, which were really good. So we did the Conondale hike, which is a 4-day hike over Easter last year. So that was sort of a preparation for the overland track, which we did at Christmas. And that was in Tasmania, and that was a 7-day hike. So it was just a prep, and that was really good. That challenged Patrick in the fact that the second day was 17 kilometers, and a reasonable uphill. And it pretty much rained most of the time. The leeches were something awesome. Just so many leeches. I've never seen so many leeches. We couldn't stop because they were just out to get us. But our walking time was really quick. It was really lovely. We did it over Easter, and we took Easter eggs with us, and it was our anniversary as well. So it was a really good celebration of just being as a family, and no distractions, no screen stuff, no I have to go and do this, I have to do that. We were just together and in the moment. It was amazing. And
despite rain and leeches, I can imagine that actually everyone had a pretty good time.
Yes, no, we did. And looking back at the photographs, like, oh yeah, that was awesome. Didn't put them off the Tasmania trip, which was 7 days. We did sugarcoat it in the fact that they were flying to Tasmania, and we were staying in a lodge the first night. And then there was a sort of logistics plan that the lodge owners would pick us up from the airport, would stay at their place, and then they'd drop us off at the start of the hike. And that hike was just incredible. You really are remote. There's absolutely nothing on man-made apart from the shelters that they've put up, and it's just a beautiful track. We got snow on the first day, and then there was lots of snow on the mountain. And this was December in Australia, so middle of spring, middle of summer. Lots of snow and cold and blizzard conditions. And then a couple of days of rain, and then it was absolutely beautiful. And every day Patrick would get up and we'd start hiking and go, oh, this day is so much better than the day before, which is awesome.
What is it for you, in terms of the hiking and being and doing those long hikes together, and what does that mean to you?
I think it really, it's that being in the moment and being with each other and just really getting to know each other well. There's no distractions, which is amazing. You've got that, you're immersed in nature. You've got all these little things to talk about. And it's just invigorating. Once you've done a hike, you're just energized to do another one. It's when they talk about itchy feet, you absolutely get that.
Yeah.
Every time you go, it's like, right, when's the next one? Let's plan the next one. And it was just incredible. We've got photographs of butterflies landing on our noses, and apparently it's the salt that they like, and they lick the salt. So we've got a lovely picture of Patrick with a butterfly on his nose, because it's just come and landed on it.
Special,
Very
special
awesome
encounter as well. Not only the salt, I'm sure there's something else there.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
so, I mean, you were in, moving to Australia was very much about going to the outdoors and changing that lifestyle. So tell us, from that transition going there. And I know you looped back to
Yeah.
Cape Town. Yeah.
Yeah, so what we did, so the plan was, so when Malcolm and I met, we'd been going out for a couple of years, and the plan was to go to England, and then I would get my British passport, because through my grandfather's ancestral visa, and Malcolm had a passport as well. We'd have our children in England, and then we moved back to South Africa. So that was the sort of the long-term plan at that point. And then people started talking about Australia, and Malcolm's brother was moving here, and his sister had already moved, and we thought, oh, let's have a look at Australia. That sounds really awesome. So we kind of decided that that's probably where we want to be, just from being able to bring up the children without the fear of sort of crime and things like that, which we didn't really feel growing up. And I think it's that once you leave a country and you outside looking in, it's a very different perspective, and suddenly we've got children that we need to look after, we've got responsibility for. So we thought maybe South Africa's not quite where we want to be, so we wanted to go back to move to Australia, and I think we were going for this, yes. And then so the plan was to come to Australia, but and Malcolm actually got a job posting over here, which was fantastic. So he actually came earlier, in January, and then I was doing family daycare at that point, and sort of wrapping up my family daycare. The children were going to finish school, it was halfway through the last semester of their school year, and I had to finish renovating the house as well. Malcolm was in Australia. He's tasked with finding a nice house and somewhere where I could do family daycare, and we're close to schools that we liked and that sort of things, and nice place we could live and have that Australian lifestyle. So that was sort of the plan. So we had a sort of 6 months where he was coming back, probably every 12 weeks, coming back to visit and helping out in England. And then once we'd met, it was, but it was. It worked. I was very fortunate. My brother came over and helped me with the renovation, so that was good, and helped me with the boys too. And then what was nice, in the middle of it, we'd actually already planned a trip to America. We were going over there for 2 weeks to take the boys to Disney, before Malcolm found out about moving to Australia. So it was a nice family holiday in America before heading over to Australia. And then part of the trip, because it would take 10 weeks for our stuff to get from England to Australia, we thought, well, there's no point in rushing. He came over and we spent a couple of weeks just touring around England, almost sort of showing the boys the last stops, and seeing London, seeing Edinburgh, going up to visit people, and just doing a bit of a tour. We also did a boat cruise on the canal boats for a week with my gran and my uncle.
Wonderful canal, boating, and
really, really nice. That was an interesting experience, but it was really good. And then we flew, and I spent a month.
Just in terms of just closing the loop on that, and just in terms of celebrating and seeing England in that way. That's a lovely transition or closure. Yeah.
Yes. No, it definitely was, and it was lovely because we got to see Malcolm's parents because they're up in Scotland. They went across to Edinburgh, and saw some friends there, and just explored the country a little bit, and then we flew out of Heathrow, and then I spent a month in Cape Town with my family, while we were waiting for the boat to arrive in Australia. So we just sort of reconnected with my family, and just exploring and doing. We didn't go up Table Mountain, but there's a really nice botanical gardens at the bottom, so we did some exploration there and took the children out into nature in Cape Town, before moving to Australia. And
you haven't been back, actually, in terms of.
We did. We went back in 2015, so 3 years later we went back for my brother's wedding, which is when we took the boys up Table Mountain.
Okay, nice.
So they were a bit older. And then when we flew back, because Malcolm was in Sydney already, he thought it would be a great idea to get over the jet lag by going on a hike the next day. So we flew at phone, because I think it was a 6 o'clock or 6:30 flight. He said, go to sleep, wake up. We've got a hike on 9 o'clock the next morning. So
start as you mean to go on. Welcome to Australia, boys.
Absolutely. So I think Patrick was sick. And we did a 10-kilometer hike from Manly to Spit Bridge, which was absolutely beautiful.
It's a beautiful walk.
Beautiful. And because he was with complete strangers from Malcolm's work, the boys did not complain at all, which was fantastic. Yeah. And we did it. It was beautiful, really beautiful. And the house Malcolm found was amazing, really close to an amazing lake called Narrabeen Lakes. And it was about a 5-minute walk down the hill to the lake. And about 15-minute cycle to the beach. So it was a perfect location for just exploring and being outdoors.
And having the life you wanted, you dreamed of.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
No, that was really good. And we spent, I think it was 2 years there, and then moved up to Brisbane. And the boys started scouting. Ethan started scouting in England. And then when we got to Sydney, Patrick started scouts in Joey Scouts. And that's when I started.
Yeah. Oh, sorry?
And that's when I started getting involved as a scout leader. And when we first moved to Australia.
Was scouting, did the boys want to do that as a way to reconnect, to make friends or know the land, or the idea of scouts anyway? Whose idea was to continue the scouts?
So Malcolm and I had never been scouts in South Africa, but I'd known scouts that had taken me on all these awesome adventures when I was a teenager. So when we sort of saw scouting around in England, we were like, oh, we definitely want to sign the boys up for that. So Ethan started as a Beaver Scout, which is the first age section from age 6. And then he transgressed moved up into Cub Scouts. He got to a point where he was, they hadn't gone in any camps or anything, and he was getting a bit anxious about that, and just he wanted to quit Cub Scouts. And then someone said, oh, we've got a camp coming up. But by that stage, we were actually moving to Australia, which was really unfortunate. And he did have some anxiety when he was younger, and we were a bit concerned about the move and everything else. So having that common, common ground, having, it's the same values, it's the same sort of, adventure, and it's all that, like you said, the thread. Having that is something stable for him. As soon as we got to Australia, we signed him up with the scout group, and Patrick had been chomping at the bit to get into it, because he just loved what Ethan had got up to and all the stories Ethan had been telling about scouts. So first day of school was the first day of scouts when we got to Australia, and he just loved it from day one, which was amazing. So, and yeah,
I'm just thinking about, such a wonderful movement and introduction for young boys, and I suppose there's brownies and guides, or actually,
we've got Girl Scouts, Girls and Scouts.
Girl Scouts now, a lovely evolution of that. But what a wonderful introduction about self-worth, independence, resilience, and all the different skills, and let alone the connection with each other and nature.
Yes, no, absolutely. It's the values and what they learn, and just watching the scout as a scout leader. So I was in the Joe Scout section with Patrick as a scout leader, and then when he moved up to Cub Scouts, I transitioned to Scouts, and Malcolm was a Cub Scout leader by then. And just what they learn, and that, as you say, that independence and those just life skills that they learn are just so vital, and having that stable group of peers as well that aren't necessarily at school. So you've got your school friends, but if you've only got your school friends, if there's ever a falling out or something, then that can really impact a child. Whereas if they know they've got somebody outside of that circle, that really, really helps too. And I think that helped too when we moved up to Brisbane. They still had that. Yes, it was all new people, but it was that same stability that they knew what they were getting into.
Yeah, and you've got something automatically in common, and yeah,
absolutely.
Because you were volunteering with Scouts, and then by this time, because you were working with the medical agency, weren't you?
Yes. So I've been working with Innovacom, the medical communications agency, from when I was in England, and then. Just amazing company that you can work from home. And then when I moved to Sydney, so I was still working for them, doing project management and medical writing for them, which was really good. And tied that in with the family daycare as well, which I'd started. I'd actually started when I had the children, because I thought, well, I've got boys, I've had these children. I kind of want to spend as much time with them as possible. And what an awesome way of being able to earn an income, as well as being with your children. And having friends for them as well, and peers that they can grow up with.
And you actually
So
studied in it, didn't you? Like early
yes,
childhood,
so
didn't you? I love that
I
about you. It's sort of like,
so once I started, then I did my Cert 3 in early childhood, and then I finished off with my diploma in early childhood education, which was great. It's a nice foundation, and it's great also just as a mother to learn all those skills and how I can actually do the best for my children, and especially Ethan with his anxiety as well as like how can I help him, and just by furthering my knowledge in those areas, I've been able to help my child as well as other people's children through the scouting and through daycare. So kind of working. I've always liked having lots of hats, as we say here. So did the family daycare. I was working for a Novacom as well. And then when we moved up to Brisbane, decided that just for various reasons that I wasn't going to continue the family daycare. I did keep all my stuff in the garage. I've still got some things in the garage. It's one of the
just in
trying
case.
to let go, just in case. And then I went full time with doing the medical communications, but project managing, as well as some medical writing as well. And then that was lots of travel though, so lots of conferences in Asia, which were amazing group of well, and getting to fly the country all over Australia and all over Asia, which was great.
The dream team.
It was. And then also, when I moved to Brisbane, there was a call out for looking for people to help with reviewing the whole of the Scout program. So across all the different sections in Scouting, and just sort of revamping it and bringing it to the 21st century. So I thought that would be a really worthwhile project. I really enjoy what we're doing in Scouting, and to try and make it bigger and better and greater for the youth of today would be amazing.
So important.
And I was really grateful to be accepted on that team. Initially, I was just going to be sort of a team member, and our first week was we flew down to Victoria to Gilbert Park for a week's training session, and just sort of starting off the process, reviewing because it was stage 4 of the review, where they'd already got a whole lot of data in about some burning questions, and then they've had people that analysed all that data and put reports together. So that was the stage 3, and then we were developing the concept for the new program, and that was just an incredible journey to see how that all unfolded, and basing it on actual data from why people were leaving the Scout movement, what we can do better, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and strategic thought of that, really, and so really making a difference.
Which was great. And then when we were there, the team leader I was actually assigned to the Joey Scout section for that. And I think what helped was the fact that I'd been a Joey Scout leader, and then I was now a Scout leader. So it was sort of where they were going from, where they're coming to type of role. And the team leader said, actually, she doesn't feel she's right for the role. So they asked if I wanted to step up as team leader, which was amazing. So I'm like, yes, I can try it. So that's a really good journey. It was about a 9-month journey of putting together, working with teams across Australia remotely to try and put together this concept for the new program.
And what was the reason? What were some of the themes in terms of the findings of why people were leaving the movement, and what has been implemented, or what are the ideas that you came up with?
Well, a lot of the problem was that when they move sections, so we've got 5 sections in Scouting, so Joey Scouts, Cub Scouts, Scouts, Venture Scouts and Rover Scouts, and the transition between each section is quite a daunting one for young people, and each section was it got to a point where it was quite insular, so you had these silos of information and things. And what would happen was, in the past, the Joey Scout section would say, okay, well, now it's time, it's been 3 years, let's review what we're doing in Joey Scouts. And then the next year the Cub Scouts were, let's review what we're doing in the Cub Scouts. And they'd all tweak their program and adjust things slightly, and so everything was a bit off kilter. So what we've come up with is, and it's something we spoke to Canada, who've just done a revamp of their program, as well as Ireland and England, and kind of got collaboration from everybody to see what they've done and what they've changed. And essentially we wanted to do a one program approach. So we're thinking of it as a journey. It's you start in Joey Scouts at the age of 5, and it's this journey throughout throughout your adolescence up until age 26, when you finish as a rover and you move on into the adult world. And I think that's really helped. It's one journey, it's one approach. So all the terminology across, it used to be very, you know, Cub Scouts, this was the terminology, and Scouts was a different terminology, whereas it's now it's all the same. So it makes it a lot easier for that transitioning period, as well as the fact that the badge work and the progression is being recognised as they progress. So we've got the outdoor adventure skills, which starts off when they're Joey Scouts, and that progresses all the way to the Rover Scouts, and they can build on that progression. Whereas before it was a case of, you've done all this stuff in Cub Scouts, great, now start again in Scouts. So we really, you know, we understand that children are going to develop in their own speed, and just let them go and choose, follow their dreams, follow their passions, and put something in place so that we can manage that. So it's amazing, because we launched it January last year, and it's been a bit of a slow rollout, especially with COVID coming. We were supposed to have a nice hard, everything's all launched by April this year, so we've had a bit of a back step with COVID, but it's doing well, and we've got a new web-based application that we're doing to help track all the stuff, so it's all very exciting.
Oh, that is, and great. Good leadership. Yeah.
So
And in terms of, do Scouts actively promote diversity in their membership?
Yes, absolutely. So diversity and inclusion is definitely something. So what we say to the children when they're doing their programming, so it's all about youth leading, adult supporting. So we want to try and give them those leadership skills, and that, you know, give them, empower them to be able to follow their passions and their dreams and what they want to be doing and what they want to be. You know, there's no point in coming on a section night and going, oh, this is boring. We want them to drive that program. So there's sort of 4 buzzwords we have, which is, you know, when you're programming, is it challenging? Is it inclusive? Is it adventurous? And is it fun? So as long as it's all things, they're scouting. So, and we want to be inclusive as much as we possibly can. So And
what have you so in terms of what have you learned about yourself, both in terms of nature and Scouts and in leadership? What have you learned about your own self?
So I think, ages and ages ago, when I first started working, we brought up this program, this SAT program, and there was a train the trainer session, and I was like, oh, that would be awesome. I'd love to be able to stand up there and train. And it's kind of been, every now and then, you know, kind of forget and you carry on with life, and then you go to another presentation or conference, go, oh, I'd really like to be standing up there and imparting knowledge and helping people, you know, learn and develop and grow. And I suppose that's where it's come into, you know, been helping the youth members in Scouting do that. And I wanted to try and do that with Scouts, and even in Overcom, you know, going to these conferences and go, oh, I'd love to be able to stand up there and do this. So a goal of mine was to be on the training team in Scouting. So I've done a lot of my qualifications through Scouts. It's a registered training organisation in Australia, and I managed to achieve that goal in February. I was training team as an instructor in bushwalking and archery. So that's been really amazing. Which is really
I love that. And also, you know, going back to the original dream of being with South Africa and being with those rangers and thinking about, wanting to impart knowledge and,
being a guide, people out and exploring and learning things and touching,
Because there was, in terms of, it was full time with an Overcom, and then when I met, you know, when you sort of just made that decision to let go, it's a big decision.
Yes, so I did it in a bit. So did it a bit of a stepped approach where it was actually when I started doing the adventures activity training through Scouts. I had done canoeing and kayaking, and I thought, because the more I do, the more we can get the children out doing these sort of awesome things. So I did canoeing and kayaking, and then I was going to sign up for abseiling, and one of the leaders turned to me and said, you have to focus on like 1 or 2 activities. You can't do lots. And I kind of went, well, I want to do lots. So, and the reason is you just need to be current in your skills. So you need to be doing it often enough and in order to keep your currency. So I thought about it, and I'd been on our council run these adventure activity days, which you can sign up for. And I'd been to YMCA, and it was a raft building activity with a family. And I went down, I thought, this is awesome. This is really good. So I was chatting to the guy that was running the sessions and sort of getting all this information and things. I thought that's what I want to do, and that's how I'm going to be able to do all these things, be able to do all my adventurous activities, do it with the Scouts if I'm working in that role. So I applied, and so then I started there part-time. And so that person I've been talking to who'd run the raft building session is now essentially my boss in that role, right? And then so I went sort of part-time with the Novacom to sort of be able to do the outdoor adventure stuff. And then decided that actually that's really what I want to be doing. So made that hard decision to quit the day job.
But I remember when you talk about it, you'd just really light up in a way that was just so amazing. And actually, one of the but it's a nice story of being both sort of, there's, you have this stirring, and you don't really forget it. Not even, in our life may take us on different paths, but there's that to link back to our original desires and stirrings and our interests, and not to forget them. And there's also something about being strategic, but also letting life, just trusting life that, you'll meet somebody or do something, or somebody will offer you that. And then there's also a lovely sort of, having a goal and then the little steps towards it. I mean, Diana, a previous episode, talked about her stirring and waking up. She's in the sort of corporate world and then going, well, how am I going to transition out? And it took 5 years and in the meantime really contributed to the well-being initiative of the organization. Which was in line with her. But this is sort of, how do we gradually do that? There's an expression, I don't know who it was from, but it was soul work and survival work. Quite often we just have to do survival work, so that sort of get the money in and just do what we can. And then, of course, it's the soul work that's really brings us alive. And, if we can get, mold those together, or, earn from soul work, that's even more purposeful and meaningful.
What I'm doing, which is fantastic. Yes.
And now it seems to me that you are deepening your own connection with nature, and you're talking about going the interest of doing solo hikes. You've done things collectively, and Scouts encourages that. So where are you at with your connection?
Well, I've been listening to quite a few podcasts and things, and that thought of solo hiking sounds quite interesting. I've always, so in the past, I've always been very much wanting to be around people all the time, and not really like being alone. And more recently, I've, when you're being outside and out in nature, and just kind of absorbing and being in the moment and being by yourself and just letting in nature sort of immerse you almost. It's kind of really helped, and I haven't had that I need to be with people feeling lonely or anything like that. So I think it would be a good challenge to challenge myself to solo walking. Saying that, I know you touched on this morning, or at the beginning of the session, about the airlift. And the helicopter.
So tell it. Tell us that story. And then we'll link back to going solo.
So I was doing a hike. It was a training course hike, and I was the instructor, and I had an assistant, and we were hiking out in Mount Walsh National Park, and it's quite a technical hike, and there's lots of rock scrambling. It's really steep gradients, sort of ascending and descending. There are parts where you have to sort of pass your pack down, and it was an overnight hike. A lot of people go up to the top of Mount Walsh just as a day trip up and down, but part of the training course, you need to do an overnight hike, and you can camp in various places on the hike, but there's not a huge amount of space because there's lots of trees or rocks, and so we'd kind of gone up to the top. We'd had lunch at the top and gone down the back, which is really steep, lots of loose rocks and things, so quite treacherous. You have to really watch your footing, and sort of lots of communication. The wind was howling. It was a tricky walk, and some of my participants were a bit anxious, but they were amazing. They got through it. I was worried about a couple of them, but we got to the campsite that night, and it was great. Really good sense of achievement. And we'd actually gone out and done the recon for the hike 3 weeks before. So myself, my husband, and Patrick, also Malcolm and Patrick, who's my son, and we'd done the hike, and it was great. And then, so we'd split the campsite because there wasn't much space in the one spot. So we had three of the guys was camping at the top, and then we was camping in the saddle. And then we went up to join them for sunrise, which was amazing. And then while the other three were packing up, we split the group. We had radio communications at all time, which was really important when you're doing this sort of thing. So they sort of headed off. We then caught up with them, went to this lookout, and which was absolutely beautiful. I turned around to tell the other two to come up and have a look. Perfectly flat spot on the mountain, probably the only flat spot on the mountain, and I fell over a stick and hit my head really, really hard on a rock, and just thought, that's not good. And I had a beanie on as well, which I'm not sure what the damage would have been if I didn't have it on. So sat up, because I had my full pack on as well, blood pouring down my face. So my assistant Evo got his bandage out, bandaged me up. So sat there for a bit. Everything was all good. So I stood up. No, I'm fine. We're fine. Everything's okay. And was like, oh, you're right. You're right. And then took 3 steps and thought, no. So I sat down before I passed out, and sort of trying to collect myself. Went through that bit of panic. I'm the course leader. What am I going to do? This is not. I can't be doing this right now. This is not right. But then we had to make that call, because the rest of the trip, and knowing it from the recon, it wouldn't be possible for me to walk out in my state, because you had to go sort of down quite a steep, rocky slope, hand bags down because it's too steep to actually climb down with your bags on, over another 2 pinnacles, and then down to the car park. So we made the hard call to call emergency services. Very lucky that the wind had actually dropped by the time they got there.
They can come and get you, because that, yeah.
They could, yes. So the guys I was with, they were brilliant. They put up a little shelter just in case, because I started going into shock. Got really, really cold, and didn't need the shelter, but it was there just in case. We started talking about, rations and stuff if we had to stay over, if the helicopter couldn't get me. We were in communication with the other team. We said to them, just keep going, because they were a little bit slower than the others. So we kind of managed it that way. Had to call our contact home support, just to let them know what's happening. So whenever we go on hikes, it's really important to leave your activity plan with someone at home, so that they can coordinate any emergency responses if necessary. We had mobile reception, and I always carry a personal locator beacon, the Garmin InReach. So it's a really good device in the fact that you can use it for GPS tracking and stuff, but you can also, it's got an emergency button, and then you can have two-way communication via text message if necessary. But we didn't need that because we had the mobile coverage, which was great. So they sent out rescue teams on the ground, and then they sent the rescue helicopter. So life flight was amazing. They had to winch me out. So yeah, it was an experience and a half.
Incredible. And so what do you know from that experience, and then your desire to go solo? What are you really mindful of, or what will help you feel safe to do it?
I think from the emergency services and all that sort of thing, that side doesn't seem to bother me. It's more the loneliness, I think. So I think that's something that I need to really, by going solo, I'll really combat that. I'm happy to be alone by myself now at home. I used to never like eating by myself, that sort of thing, which I've kind of got over. I think just by design, and the fact that busy families, we're always out and about doing different things. So I think just being alone for an extended period of time, without distractions, I think will be really challenging for me as a person. I think doing that out would be an amazing experience.
Yeah. And wonderfully beneficial. I really do. I think, I've just done, the last episode has been on going solo in nature. And I think it's and I start off the discussion because Pascal, the French philosopher, said, all of humanity's problems are their inability to sit by themselves in a room, because it's very difficult for us to be sitting with us and all the emotions and the sense of, either loneliness or disconnection. And it arises. That's the foundation of also meditation or, going in, but practicing bit by bit, being alone in a room, to then being alone in little times outdoors. I think it's a lovely part of accessing ourselves and our own resourcefulness and wisdom. And yeah, and I love that you're experimenting with that.
Yeah, so it should be really good. So, and you know, there's the saying where if you fall off a horse, you should get back on straight away.
Yes.
So we're off on a night hike this weekend.
Yes, I can imagine. Yeah, good.
All my colleagues, they say I should wear a helmet.
Yeah, wow, you know, there's that too. But whatever makes us feel safe.
Yeah,
yeah,
no, definitely.
Yeah,
So this weekend will be really good. It's just going out with some friends and doing a hike. It's not scary. Not
exactly.
work. It's just...
You haven't got the responsibility of being a leader. You know, that's all part of it too. I mean, there's the thing. You know, I know with Australia, you know, there's all these dangerous animals, and so how do you know, the invitation to go outdoors and experience that? So how do you encourage people when it's, you know, Australia's known for its danger?
It certainly is. I think having my mother being an entomologist, I've not got any issues with spiders and bugs and things like that. We used to have so many around the house anyway, and I've never had a problem with animals. And we used to have a snake when we were little. It was a great snake until we got bored of it because they don't do much, and let it go. My mom found it in the compost pile. There was a lot bigger then. She wasn't too impressed. But so I've never really had a problem with snakes and spiders and things like that. So that's not really ever been a concern for me. We did come across something slithery last weekend, where one of the participants, she was going down, sort of sitting to get down to the next layer because the rocks were quite steep, and she almost sat down and went, "Oh, there's a snake," and it was what looked like a brown snake. So she sort of moved off, and I sort of gently edged it with my walking stick, just gently touched it, and it could sort of slithered away-ish. Got a good look at him, took some photographs, and turned out he was a legless lizard. So it was my first legless lizard sighting. I was very excited about that.
It is exciting. So how do you encourage people, or what sort of advice, or in terms of people that do have a fear? You say you don't, you know, necessarily, but how do you help people work through that?
I think it's just about it's gauging what their level of fear is, and just getting to understand that these creatures are not out to get us. They really, you know, if they're around, we just need to we can make a noise, usually with your footsteps and stuff. They don't want to be around us, so they'll move off. And yeah, if you do see something, just sort of stop and sort of back off a little bit, and then we can just either encourage them to move along, or we can find a different track around. So it's just really, it's being respectful of them, and just most of the time people are okay with that.
Yeah, I think so. And it's also, you know, like, generally they don't want to be around us, those animals, but being respectful. Have you, Thurston on its episode talks about the encounters in terms of with nature and around myth, and we talked about that, the symbolic. Do you feel like you've had an encounter with an animal or a bird or a tree or rock that you've had a special connection with?
What, sort of out in the wild, or
or maybe or not, you know. Do you feel like you've had a conversation?
Conversations. Well, I had a parrot, and he used to talk back.
Yeah.
So we used to have a parrot. His name was Gambrinus. When we got him, I used to work in marketing in a brewery, so he was a patron saint of beer, so being Gambrinus. So Gambrinus. So he was just absolutely lovely, and he used to talk quite a lot. And he flew away once, and we saw him sort of flying around, and he came in a big full circle and landed in a tree just down the road from where we lived at the time in England. And we kind of went to go call him, and he just sat in the tree, and he was going, "Gambrinus, in your cage, in your cage." Oh, really? And he wouldn't move. He was exhausted, so I had to climb up the tree and take him out, take him home. And then he sulked for about 3 days. He wouldn't talk to me. He just had his back. Every time I came to the cage, he's like, turn around. It was very sweet.
But isn't that's like talking to a parrot is quite sort of probably feels quite natural, and, you know, like, can you see the, you know, the similarity, or how can you, or is there a difference in talking or seeing the symbolicness or an encounter with like the butterfly on Patrick's nose, or have you ever thought about that or experienced it in that way?
I don't think I really have. So, but
yeah,
I talk to plants.
yeah.
Usually when so any of the plants that we've planted, any of my herbs and roses and things like that, sort of talk to them, encourage them, and ask them to flower for me, or sort of chin up if they're feeling a bit droopy, that sort of thing. So,
Do you think it helps? Do you think it helps?
I think,
but that, when I talk about sort of conversations with the earth, and somebody said, what does that mean? But it's all variations from talking to our dog or our parrot or our plants. There's an intuitive sort of thing. I think there's I'm part of my Earth Converse is encouraging, that.
Yes.
And what do you know, or in terms of what you learned about, you're in the heart of, Aboriginal, Aborigines have got so much wisdom. We quite often turn the indigenous icons of, real connection with their land. And what have you learned from them, or being in Australia, or?
I probably haven't learned as much as I should do, and it is definitely something that I'm hoping to look into. We have, so the Gubby Gubby tribe used to be in our area, so we do have some sort of discussions about that with some of the children when we're doing the environmental walks and things like that. There's a really good campsite, scout campsite up on the Sunshine Coast, which has sort of significant area where they used to do sort of making their implements and things. So that's a really good spot that we can take the children to and just let them understand the significance of the area. But yeah, so in ceremonies and things, we also acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, but haven't really delved into it as much as it probably should have. And it's definitely on my to-do list.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But it's sort of like, and I think there's also, indigenous wisdom can be contained to indigenous wisdom, but how do we create our own connection, as individuals or a family or a collective or a group with the land? I think that's interesting too. What advice would you like to give, whether following your dreams, how to encourage your family, or and have this experience together, or hiking, or connection with scouts? What advice would you like to give some people?
Well, I think it's really important to have that connection with the earth, whether and try and get your children outside and exploring and not sitting on their devices, and just being out and doing things together that is away from being inside and on screens and things, and it just helps with that connection from a family perspective. I mean, if you can send your children to scouting, that's amazing. Their values and things are just incredible. The opportunities they get to do outdoor adventure stuff is amazing. And just with the goal setting is so important. And even if it's something that, it might be a really long-term goal, but just trying to keep an eye on what that might be. And yes, things do throw curveballs, and families get in the way sometimes from suddenly you've got different responsibilities, but keeping that touching base with that goal in the long run, and being positive, and you'll get there, I think. And just following that thread, I suppose, through your life, and just to go back to when Malcolm and I used to explore Table Mountain a lot, and then we extended that and did our 14-day trip across England, and we've been talking. We read the book, the Bill Bryson's Walk in the Woods, which is all about the Appalachian Trail in America, and that's a long distance through hike. And then I met someone, she's now the ambassador for Scouts New South Wales, and Heather did the Pacific Crest Trail, which is from Mexico to Canada. I think it's just over 4,000 kilometers and takes about 3 months. So that's now on our to-do list. So the plan is to do that for our 50th. So between our 50th year, so it's 7-8 years away. So Malcolm and I will go and do that journey together, and just really, really connect for 3 months walking across.
you so will do it. That's a beautiful goal and a lovely thing to do together. With that big goal in mind, I think we'll just stop here, and thank you so much, Lynda. Really.
No, it's been amazing. Thank you, Penny. You've helped with sewing those threads together through our couple of discussions we've had before this podcast. So it's really nice to see it from your perspective and that full circle of life and how important family and nature and just being out there really is. So thank you for the opportunity.
I love that. And it is so simple, isn't it? Like it's like, how do you deepen your connection with nature? Well, go out in it, you know? Sort of like, yeah, that's sort of step one, isn't it? You know, and however we do that, whether it's solo, family, enjoy hiking, you know, or, you know, more intentional, more symbolic, it doesn't matter, but just going out in it. And thank you so much. And see you back for the next Earth Converse podcast. In the meantime, go out and enjoy nature, one conversation